Shit. Oh fuck. So this is the story of Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach. This is the first story time in the story times, alright? So Ichigo Kurosaki, right, was a substitute Soul Reaper. He was born, he had orange hair. His mom was a Quincy and his dad was a Soul Reaper. But he didn't find that out until later in his life. So he's a little kid and he has two little sisters, a mom and a dad, and he's living his life, cool, whatever. Um, but he was always, seeing like spirits and stuff. People had like died, um, and like hadn't quite gone on to the next life. These were ghosts. These were apparitions. All right. Ichigo was like that, right? He found these people. He didn't understand what it was. He was just a little boy. But one day, his mother falls prey to one of these deadly entities called a hollow, and she dies. Trying to protect Ichigo, trying to protect him from the evil entity she knew as an evil being. She knew it was there. Ichigo didn't quite see it, and she protected him, saved his life. But she died in the process. So Ichigo had a way about him after that. My mom died, and now I see all these things. My dad doesn't quite understand. His dad was like heartbroken because he lost his wife. But like his dad was like, so like, his dad buried all of his, depression and sadness that he lost his wife, and he like put up a front for years that everything was still all right because he wanted to like make it cool for Ichigo and his sisters. And he was like, it's still all right, mommy's gone but daddy's still here, and he did that shit, and fucking Ichigo then grew up to be middle schooler, tall, more reserved. Wasn't like best student, I guess. He didn't go to school all the time, because his dad run a clinic in Kurakata town, so he did that. And he helped his dad out there. And you'll find that out in the first episode and shit. But this is where like the series actually starts and stuff, So Ichigo then, goes to school and he has his friends. He has Chad, he has Keiko Asano and some other people. People who are like, just regular people who don't see shit. He was walking home one day, he finds a ghost. This ghost does some extra stuff. She's like, somebody knocked over my flowers and stuff, and he see the people who did it, and he ran up and kicked their ass because that was disrespectful. He knows that ghost feels that way. Those people didn't see it, but he made him apologize because he was like, that shit is disrespectful. You don't desecrate somebody's, that girl died there, and her family left flowers there. You gotta like respect shit like that. You don't fuck with that stuff. And he kicked their ass, and then they ran away. And he's a 15-year-old boy. He goes back to his house. He lays down, and, all of a sudden a hollow appears at his house. There for, to fuck with Ichigo, and other things. But Rukia comes. Rukia is a Soul Reaper from Soul Society sent to destroy hollows. That's what a Soul Reaper does, destroys these hollows, performs Konta on them and sends them, back into the cycle of, having their soul refreshed. So it's like cool. But they're like destroyed and shit. Like their energy gets like, kind of like how energy is like not created nor destroyed. It just transfers into something else. That's what happens with those people that become hollows. But like she also performs Kontas on the people who have chains on them, which are the ghosts. So she does that and sends them to Soul Society, where they'll live their lives as a soul and other things, and then reaps the hollows. So Hollow was at Ichigo's house. Rukia was there, and then Ichigo's like, I can't defend my family. What the fuck's going on? Rukia goes down, and then she's like, you know what? Take my powers, Ichigo. Let me stab you in the chest with my sorry powers. She had no idea that Ichigo actually had some sorry powers. So his sorry powers came too. But in doing that, he actually took some of Rukia's powers too, and he cut down that hollow. And after that, Ichigo's running around cutting down hollows in Karakura Town. For a long time, he meets Uryu, who's also hunting down hollows, but he's a Quincy, and he has a whole group of friends. And Orihime and Chad, they accumulate powers too. And that's how that is at the beginning of Bleach. But then, it comes to a point where Rukia is, she needs to go back to Soul Society because she had committed a crime against Kuchi Clan, really the laws of the Soul Society, stating that, you cannot give your powers to somebody else. That shit is like uncalled for. You cannot do shit like that. Shit will not be had like that. This nigga was like, my girl left. Ichigo, Rukia left. And she left like in a weird way. She left a message for him and all kind of extra stuff. And he had to like decode it and stuff, and he was like, oh shit, she like went to go back to Soul Society so she could like save my life, because they were gonna kill Ichigo because they thought that Ichigo stole her power, like just took it from her, when it was really she was giving it to Ichigo so he could defend himself. But they didn't see it that way, so he went there and he fought against Renji, and he was fighting decently against Renji, and then he like his power, got stronger against Renji, and Renji got on the back foot. He flipped. He was like, oh, fuck. But then Byakuya dashes behind him and cuts him down real quick. Cuts his soul link and soul chain and all that extra stuff. So he was fucked up. He couldn't use his soul reaper powers for a while. But luckily for him, Kisuke Urahara was helping Rukia out while she was in the world of the living. So Kisuke Urahara used to be a soul reaper, and he taught Ichigo how to use oh my god, taught him Shikai release. How to like call forth his Soul Reaper powers, true Soul Reaper powers, Shikai. So he trained with Kisuke Urahara, and he learned Zangetsu, and he learned that there. And he was like, and Kisuke told him, you do not fight people who have captain level authority in Soul Society. These people will cut you down real quick, and you shouldn't fight lieutenants either, but if you have to, it's cool, but never fight a captain. But Ichigo runs to Soul Society. He goes through the gate, the Senkaimon, and he goes there. The cleaners follow them, and then they like jump out of it. There they encounter Jirambo, and Jirambo comes down with the axe, and he's like, boom, boom, boom. Ichigo holds down against that shit in the Shikai form, and he just, Jirambo's impressed, so he tries to open the gate, but then Ginichimara comes there and cuts his leg. So then they have to go to Kakushiba, I think her name is, and go to her, and she shoot him into a fucking ball past the because the Seireche was guarded by a certain gate, but the projectile they shot her in, it was enough, force to get through the barrier and other shit, so they were cool. But they weren't that cool because they all scattered everywhere into Soul Society. And then they enter Soul Society, and Ichigo fights against a guy named Ikaku Madarame. He's a bald-headed guy. He has a staff sword thing, a spear. But it breaks apart and other things. Ichigo had a hard fought battle with him. Not really. Ichigo cut him down. Then he's running around with a guy named Ganju and Hinata. And then they run up into Renji again. And he fights against Renji. And during this fight, he's like trying to get Renji to see that, you like Rukia or whatever. Why would you ever let that shit happen to her? Like, why the fuck would you let them, like, execute her and other stuff if you, care about her so much like you claim, and he beat him in that fight, like, being like, yo, like, what the fuck are you doing? You're gonna, like, let that bitch die because, your captain says to, capture her and then, let her get her head chopped off. That's a fucked up law. If you were truly her friend, you would want to save her. And then, he woke Renji up, basically, and Renji was like, oh my gosh, I have to, get stronger so I can save Rukia. But he was all fucked up after that fight, and Ichigo was too. But Hinata took Ichigo down to a little place, and he healed Ichigo, but not enough. enough for another encounter. But this encounter was one that he wasn't supposed to have. But the the very rambunctious, very violent and goddamn, seriously, this guy's power level was his reaction level was crazy. They felt it, and they were like scared. They were like, "This is a captain coming at him. This is Captain Zaraki from Squad 11. This guy, he's running around, doing extra stuff, right? He's fighting Ichigo. He was running around trying to look for Ichigo because he could sense the energy. He's like, this guy has a lot of Ryatsu. I want to test this shit. He's a Ryoka, a person who invaded Soul Society. I need to see what the fuck this guy can do. I'm a fighter. I want to see what this guy does." And then he's like, Ichigo was on the back foot for all that fight. And then this is where Ichigo like dug deep, and he got a better connection with his Zanpakuto, because he just like learned how to like create the sword, create a Shikai out of nowhere. He didn't quite understand that the spirit was the sword too, and he saw the physical embodiment of Zangetsu, the spirit. And Zangetsu was like, "Why are you like crying and shit? You can call upon my power whenever you want to." And then Zangetsu and Ichigo, had an encounter with a clash with Zaraki after he cut his eye patch off. Well, he didn't cut his eye patch off. He took it off because he was like, "I ain't supposed to do shit like this, but for you, I think I can do shit like that." and he did that. And they clashed, and then I'd say Ichigo lost after that because he passed out. Zaraki didn't pass out, but Zaraki thought he lost, so he lost. Whatever, people debate about that fight all the time, I guess. But I know Ichigo lost that fight. But he didn't lose his life, so it was more of a draw. But Yoroichi came there to save him in cat form, and then took her clothes off and other things. And Ichigo was like, "Oh fuck, you're here and you're a woman. Damn girl, you looking fine as fuck." But he was like, "Yeah, I gotta go save Rukia and shit real quick." And he went over there to where the platform was. They were doing a transfer, and Hanataro and Ganji were there and extra stuff. So they were getting fucked with by Byakuya, but then Ichigo came down and cut that shit down real quick and was like, "Cool, I'm here. I'll hold this shit down." Then Byakuya was like, "Oh man, this guy, I need to kill him now before he, tries to take Rukia." But then Yoriichi came there and stopped shit. She was faster than Byakuya and other things, and saved Ichigo. She said, "We're gonna do Bankai training." They did Bankai training for a while. It took 3 days and 3 nights, but he was ready to save Rukia at Sogyoku Hill. The day that shit happened. That shit happened and stuff. And when he pulled up to the scene, it was like not a fucking joke. He was ready and everything. He smashed Lieutenant's Shikai. He smashed Amada's Shikai, the Zangetsu Buri. He destroyed that, and then he hit Sasakibe in the chin, knocked his ass out. Dealt with getting past Soy Phone 2, and he dashed up there, flashed over there. And he cut the fucking platform, and before that Phoenix came to destroy her, he like stopped that shit. And they were like in fight. And this was Byakuya versus Ichigo, one of the best fights in anime, by the way. And Ichigo was on the back for a little bit. A heavy ass Shikai versus Byakuya's Shikai as well. So Ichigo was like, confident. He was like, "I can beat you. I'm going to see if I can beat you with my Shikai. I want to see what your Bankai looks like. Show me what that shit does real quick." And he was like, "All right, fine. You want to see you want to see my Bankai?" He says, "Zenbone Sakura, Kageyoshi." And he's like, "What the fuck?" He dropped his sword. And then this shit spread everywhere, and he started getting cut the fuck up. Ichigo was cut the fuck up, but not so much that he couldn't fight. He stood up and he was like, "You know what? I was crazy for thinking I could beat you with my Shikai. I have my Bankai. And Byakuya was like, no, ain't no way some little brat does extra stuff like that. But Ichigo sure showed him up. And also, made two miracle has happened on a captain level Soul Reaper, and not just any captain. That's Byakuya Kuchiki. He basically never loses. He calls everybody trash and everything else, and it's rightfully so because Byakuya, guess what? He's a captain. But he's not just a captain, he's a royal too of the Kuchiki clan, and he always makes those statements. He's like making those statements during the fight, and Ichigo's like, fuck those rules. It don't fucking matter. That's your sister. You don't want her to fucking die. You're just heeding calls to some fucking rules and regulations. You're really gonna let your little sister die because of that bullshit, huh? And he fought him and he kept fighting him, and then it came to the end, and Ichigo was still standing, and he destroyed Byakuya's sword, and Byakuya was like, you know what, this boy wasn't really fighting me, he was fighting against the laws of the Sword Society. I'll let it him do whatever he wants with my sister. So he saved Rukia and all that extra stuff. But Aizen was really doing stuff in like different areas of Soul Society. He knew that the Hogyoku was inside of Rukia. He went and found Rukia and took the Hogyoku. And he was a real villain, playing games too, doing other shit. But that leads into the next arc, which is the Aranka arc. And so there, Ichigo, goddamn, Ichigo was, in a bind with himself. So there was a hollow that came out during the fight against Byakuya, and the inner hollow was taking control of Ichigo. Every time he would use Bankai release, his eyes would go black. So he went to fight Ukiura and Yami, with the voice in the back of his head being white, the hollow within himself. And he's like, you're using my power, you're using it wrong. You gotta let me take control real quick. And he was like, I can't let you do that. I can't go ballistic here. My friends are here too. I can't let this shit go crazy. And he was like, all right. So he started using Shikai only. But the number 4, Ukiura and Yami retreated. They retreated into the void. So then after that, right, the next passing days come, and Grimjow sends a whole bunch of other Arankars to the fucking scene, and they're like fighting down against like a whole bunch of Soul Reapers, Hitsugaya and a whole bunch of lieutenants. Renji and Ukichima, and fucking Ikaku and Rangiku, and all of them are holding down in this fight against these hollows. And then Ichigo finds Delroy, I think, D-Roy or some shit. He's a weak ass hollow, but Ichigo couldn't fight all out. So Rukia came there to save him and shit. But after Grimjow showed up, he was an Espada, the first one that showed his real fucking power on Ichigo. He stabbed a hole through Rukia first. Boom, got her out of the way. Then he started fighting Ichigo without a sword, just his hands, because his Hira, which is the hardness of his skin, was powerful enough to hold down against Ichigo's Bankai attack with just his arm. And then he started wearing his ass out, just with his hands. He wasn't worried about no sword cutting him or anything, and he was faster than Ichigo and all kind of extra stuff. The only thing that Ichigo managed to do was put a scar on him. He could only let out one Getsuga Tencho, black Getsuga Tencho, in the Bankai state, or else White would have took control and he would have lost control of himself. And he didn't want to do that, so he used it once and he put a scar on Grimjow. Then he went back to Wako Mundo because Aizen was pissed that he went there and got a whole bunch of the allies killed for the, that's for the antagonist group. But Ichigo was upset because, he couldn't hold down against the fucking Espada. But he went to Shinji, who we met at school, and he was like, I'll need to learn how to control this inner hollow like you know how to. And he was like, okay, we'll help you out. You're one of us, Ichigo. A Vizard. That is a Soul Reaper that has the power of a hollow within him too. But they have it controlled. Ichigo didn't have it controlled until he went to train. And then he went inside of himself and he fought against his inner hollow. Basically, he had to learn how to accept the hollow, is what Ichigo had to do. accept his power as his own power. And he was like, it took him a while for him to get it and stuff. And he was like, okay, so I have to accept you from within. You are part of me. I can't run from this shit. You are a part of me, but your power is mine to use. And then he was like, that might be true, but if you ever get in a bind and shit, I'll have to come out and like finish the job, is what White said to him. And that's what happened. So then, Orihime gets taken away during this time. She gets taken by Ukiura back to Wakamundo. And then everybody, is like, in an uproar because Aizen's going to come, to the world of the living and try to, destroy some things. He wants to summon the Oken and become, the new Soul King, basically, and control, like, all three worlds. Have all the power of, like, all three worlds. Being a transcended being with the Hogyoku's power and his power like aligned, and stuff like that. And people were like, ready to hold down against him in a fake Karakura town. But Ichigo was more worried about Orihime. That's his friend, basically his girlfriend too. He wanted to go save her, and she was in Waco Mundo and stuff. So he was like, all right, cool. We'll go down there. They were like, the Soul Reapers were like, you can't go there. But he disobeyed orders and begged Kisuke Urahara, we need to go save Orihime now. She's our friend and she's a human being. She's like, she don't even know stuff about this. She's just innocent. She ain't supposed to be there. And he went there and he went to save her. There he met a girl named Nellie L, who used to be an Espada back in the day, and then some other like weak ass hollows. And they started following Ichigo. Ichigo comes across Ukiura, and he finds Ukiura and also Orihime, but he has an encounter with Ukiura that wasn't that, it was easy for Ukiura to take down Ichigo, alright? Ichigo stood no chance. He got a hole in his chest, but he didn't die. Ichigo thought he was number one. He was like, if I can get up and beat you, then I'll beat the strongest Espada. And he was like, sorry, brother, you ain't, fighting the strongest one. I'm only number 4. And he was like, oh, fuck. He had a hole in his chest then, and he was like, he took an L. And then Orihime found him and brought him back to life so he could fight against Grimmjow. Oh, but fuck, I forgot about a part. Before they went to Wakamundo, Aizen sent Grimmjow back to fix his mistake, I guess. And he fought against Grimmjow in the world of the living. How did I forget that part? He fought against Grimmjow in the world of the living with a hollow mask. And he also used a hollow mask against Ukiura before he put that hole in his chest. He used the fucking hollow mask. That's mastery of the inner hollow. But he could only use the hollow mask for like 15 seconds or some shit like that. But during that time, he actually had Grimmjow on the back foot for a little bit. He actually had to pull his sword out and do extra stuff. But then it came down to the showdown between Grimmjow and Ichigo. And Orihime was up there with Nellie L, and he was like, I have to hold down against Grimmjow and take him down. He's not, he's kind of like attacking people too much, and like it's just not fucking right. He's attacking my dick too because I gave him a mark, and he really wants to fight me, so I'll fight him. And then that was one of the best fights in Bleach 2, Grimmjow versus Ichigo, the 3rd round. And Ichigo ended up defeating him, but then after that, the 5th Espada came there, and everybody thought Grimmjow died, but come to find out later he's still alive and shit. But so Ichigo's there, and he's all fucked up from that fight with Grimmjow. He's all tired and shit. But Kenpachi steps in to fight number 5, Noritora, and they had a great fight too. But then after that, Orihime gets snatched by number 1. Stark, and then Stark takes her to Las Noches, and then has Ukiura protect her. Then Ichigo goes to Las Noches to fight Ukiura, but this time, at this point in time, Ichigo has his mask in his right. He's good with the mask, like he can hold that shit for a long time. And he's a lot stronger. And Ukiura like notes that, and he's like, "You've gotten a lot better with your Getsuga and your Bankai and everything. Now I actually have to draw my sword and other things against you." and they were fighting and fighting, and this is one of the best fights in Bleach too, Ukiura versus Ichigo. Um, he had to go above the canopy of Las Noches chasing down Ukiura, because he was told that he can't release his resurrection downstairs. So he went up there and he did it. But after that happened, Ichigo was like not fucking doing anything. He was getting like thrown around and all kind of shit. The hollow mask broke and he couldn't do shit. Ukiura was moving way too fast for him. Moves were too strong. Everything went up through the roof when he used that resurrection form. But Ichigo was like, I still have to like stand my ground against you because I have my friends and shit. I have to protect them. It ain't that I don't think you're stronger than me. I have to fucking beat you. And he was like, oh well, and he showed him the next form, and the next form, Ichigo was like, oh fuck, this guy has another form too, and he was like, and Ukiura was like, there's no way you're beating me now, because not even Aizen knows about this form. Ichigo was like, oh fuck, and then he died, but before he died, his inner hollow came to save him. White came to save him. Basically, he went into a full hollow state, and in that form, Ichigo was able to defeat Ukiura. Basically, hit him so hard with some like Cerro Blast and cutting him up enough that his regeneration couldn't work no more. He's like, I can't even regenerate now. And that was his whole thing. He was the fastest one to heal out of all the hollows. But he couldn't do it no more. He started to degrade and go away. But Ichigo was kind of like upset too because he was like, that wasn't me who fought against him, He was upset that the hollow took control and he didn't have control of his body for a little bit. But he was still alive, so it was all right. And they needed him alive because Aizen was still a fucking problem in the world of the living. Or fake Katakura town, actually. So Ichigo gets healed up, or by Orihime, and then he goes to fight Yami because they're Renji and Chad and everybody else is holding down against Yami, which is the 0. He used to be number 10, but he showed that he was number 0. So he has a new hollow mask and he's stronger, but they're like, you can't be here. Byakuya and Kenpachi show up and they're like, you can't be here. You got to go over to Katakura Town and defend your place. You're the substitute Soul Reaper. You have to do that. That's where you need to hold down. You ain't supposed to hold down here. You have to hold down over there. And he was like, okay, I'm going there. Aizen's over there and everybody has seen his Shikai release, is what he was informed by Unohana. She told him, if you look into his sword, you'll be caught in illusions and shit. And that's Kyoka Suigetsu's power. It'll control your 5 senses and you will like do shit that you ain't supposed to do. And Ichigo witnessed this shit too himself. He witnessed everybody, all the captains cutting each other down in front of each other. In front of him, and he's like, oh fuck, you guys are fucking up right now. When he got to fake Katakura Town, you guys are like cutting each other down. But he come to find out that was Aizen's ability. He shot Getsuga's item and shit, but then Gin Ichimaru comes and tries to teach Ichigo that he's not strong enough to go against Aizen. With the Hogyoku and the Zanpakuto that Aizen has and his transcended like state, he keeps growing in power. Ichigo's not strong enough yet. He cannot beat him. And he started, fighting against Ichimaru, and Ichimaru showed him that, he's still a boy who has to, train more. Either you're gonna do stuff or you're not. Basically, he left it like that for him. And then they left. Ichimaru and Aizen left for the actual world of the living. But Ichigo's dad and Urahara and Yororichi tried to fight against him before that happened. But they weren't able to do anything. Well, Kisuke was. But then, Dangai Precipice World happened. And Ichigo was in there for a while. He was in there. And he was, training with the Bankai, the manifestation of his Bankai. And then his Bankai, Tensuzan Getsu told him, if you use this move, and he trained there for a while. What was like a few hours or a few minutes in the real world was like, I don't know, like 3 years in the fucking Dangai Precipice world. and Ichigo trained there. And he was like, if you lose the final Getsuga Tencho, this move, you'll like lose all your Soul Reaper powers, and you'll never see this shit again. And he was like, I have to do this shit to like defeat Aizen. Everybody else failed. It's on me now. And then he got out. He went there and basically traded all of his like Ryatsu for he put it all in his sword. So like his physical body was like he was kind of on some Saitama shit. He grabbed Aizen and he threw him way the fuck away from the city and everything. Then they started destroying the mountains and stuff. Some of that shit was Aizen, right? But most of it was Ichigo's power. And Aizen noted that this shit shouldn't be happening. He's just a regular, he can't even sense any Ryatsu, any energy coming off of this guy. And he's still able to do extra stuff. And he was like, okay. He and he did that shit, right? And then and I don't know what you mean by grounding mechanisms, because I am like that, is what he was saying. And he said, I'll take over and I'll ascend even higher. And he did. Aizen did ascend higher. And then Ichigo just used the final Getsuga Tenchu, shot that at him. And Aizen was not defeated, but he got sealed away because Kisuke put a seal inside of him. A certain what's it called? Keto spell that would seal his power away. And Ichigo needed to hit him with a whole bunch of like Ryatsu energy, and get that shit put inside of him so he could be sealed away. And he got sealed away. Then he went to Muken prison. That's Aizen, who went to Muken prison he got sentenced for 10,000 years or 100,000 or some shit like that, because he's like a Soul Reaper. He's already like dead himself. Then Ichigo lost all his Soul Reaper powers, and he didn't have his powers for a year and a half, until the Fullbring arc, when Kugo Ginjo came, and he said, I can get you your Soul Reaper powers back. He's a bound that has all kind of extra stuff. It's called a Fullbring. These people were attacked by like hollows when they were younger, and then they got these special abilities. Ichigo like kind of qualified to be a Fullbringer, so they trained him to be a Fullbringer during that arc. Nobody likes the Fullbring arc. I know I don't like it. As a Bleach fan, I don't like it, but it was necessary because it brought everybody back. So Kugo Genjo used to be a substitute Soul Reaper, but nobody knew about it, except only certain Soul Reapers knew about it. Only like the older Soul Reapers knew about it. And the combat pass had, powers to, transmit, messages to Soul Society. And Ichigo had to fight against Tsukishima and Genjo. Tsukishima was making people think that Tsukishima was always a part of their lives. He had a power called the Book of the End, so he was able to like erase their memories and make them think that Tsukishima was there. Tsukishima's their dad. Tsukishima's their mother. Tsukishima's their provider, their big brother, fucking with people's memories. And then they were fucking with Chad, Orihime. Everybody was like, Ichigo, you're crazy. Tsukishima's always been a part of our life. Tsukishima's always, done stuff for us for our whole life. And he's like, no, this guy's playing games with everybody. Then Rukia came there, and she gave him his Soul Reaper powers back. And that flipped the tides for them. And then it wasn't just her that showed up. Renji, Ikaku, Byakuya, and goddamn, Zaraki was there too. Hitsugaya too. They all claimed there. They were like, Kugo Ginjo used to be a substitute Soul Reaper. You need to take him down and other stuff. So he did that. But after, Ichigo like let out a Zangetsu, or not a Zangetsu, goddamn, Getsuga Tencho that cut down the fucking home of Kugo Ginjo, and then Kugo Ginjo took some of Ichigo's power, and he started to perform Bankai and other things, but it wasn't enough. Ichigo was able to hold down against that shit and cut his ass down, and it was over. Kugo Ginjo died, and it was, done. But Ichigo had his powers back. Flash forward, I don't know how many months or something, but 1,000 year blood war starts. So in the Soul Society, the Quincy's start attacking. The Quincy's start attacking. And Ichigo's told that he has to get there, because everybody needs his help. And well, actually, not there. First it was an Iran or not an Iran. Well, it is an Iran car that has Quincy powers. Comes to his house and is like sitting on his bed, and he's like, "Get the fuck out of here! You can't be here. Get the fuck out of here, man. You're outside with it. We're outside with it. You're trying to fuck around in my room and other stuff. And he's fighting, holding down against him. Almost got his Bankai taken away, but it didn't work. And then that guy retreated to Wakamundo, where then Nelly L comes out of Wakamundo and says, we need your help. The Hollows are being attacked by Quincy's. There's a certain guy called, I don't know what his name was, but I know what his letter was. It was the Jailbreak. That guy was, killing and also recruiting Arankars to be a part of the Wandenreich, the Sternritter army. Quincy's, who are trying to take over, Soul Society and make Yuha the leader of, the Soul King, take everything back, since he is the son of the Soul King, Yuha Baha, and he, Ichigo fought against the Jailbreak, and he got, boxed in, actually, with a, Quincy ability. So when he was boxed in, he couldn't do shit. And then, I don't remember. I think it was Grimjaw who killed him, the Jailbreak. But after that, it allowed Ichigo to go through the Tenkaimon back to, or to the Soul Society, and everybody was being defeated. Jadambo was there, fucking everybody. And then he saw that Byakuya got his guts were torn out of him. And he was like, oh, fuck. And he seen Byakuya Kuchiki crying. You don't see that guy cry. And he's like, and he also said, Ichigo, we need your help more than ever. I'm a Soul Reaper, but, I can't do it. Not when I'm like this. You have to like hold down against this enemy. And he's like, all right, I'll be there and shit. I'll be there for you. I'll do extra stuff. People are, fucking around too much, Then Ichigo goes over there and he sees that Yuha looks like the spirit inside of his sword, Zangetsu. He's like, this is crazy. And he's like, and Yuha's like, I knew about you. You're one of my children because, your mother was a Quincy. So you also have Quincy blood. And it actually came out, Blue Vena. I knew that move, Blue Vena. That move allows, the person to like have like a certain kind of like armor. So like, sword attacks don't fucking get through their skin, basically. But he was able to like call that shit forth and fuck with Ichigo. Ichigo wasn't enough for him, basically, and his sword broke. Bankai release. After that, though, he got handled and they all left, and everybody, head captain Yamamoto had died. A whole bunch of people got like fucked up. Byakuya, Renji, Rukia. These people were like sent to the Soul Palace because the Royal Guard came down. They were like, you come down after, all this extra stuff happened when you could have like came here before that. They were like, your job is to protect the Seirei as Soul Reapers. You should have been strong enough to handle that shit. We come down to, get these people and train them up to actually hold down next time this shit happens. And they went down there and they did that. They grabbed these people. Ichigo was one of those people, and they were like, your sword broke, but it's fine. Your true Zanpakuto will be like given to you up here, in the Royal Palace. And Ichigo's training with all 5 of the Royal Guard members. Oetsuni Maya sends Ichigo back, and he sees his dad. His dad tells him about his mom and how she was a Quincy and how he used to be a captain and other things of Squad Number 10. And then one day they sent a hollow after, her, and Ichigo's dad, defended her, took the hollow powers out of her, so she wouldn't die and all that extra stuff. But Ichigo was born from that relationship. Him and Ichigo's mom, I forget what her name is, but they had, Ichigo, and he was Quincy, Soul Reaper, Fullbringer, and Hollow. All that shit. All that made him like a kind of a chosen one to, like, take down evil. And Ichigo learned that, and he, felt some type of way, and he's like, I have to, like, go back, and I have to, like, make sure, I win. There's no, losing here. I have to fucking win. I have to beat Yua now. And he went back, and, they, he's like, Goichi, you're back, now you know that your Zanpakuto has, it's a dual wielding Zanpakuto. It's not just a singular blade. You have all those powers in you. Now you have to use them, how you know how to use them. And he's like, cool. And then and he goes down. After that, he learns his, Zanpakuto, and he has a new ability. It's that Getsuga that is like yellow, and it's like a cross, and it's like very powerful. Like, it's like 5 times as strong as a Getsuga or some shit like that. He shoots down one of the Bambis, which is one of those bitches who serves Yuha. She was I think that was the Thunder. He shot down the Thundercat with his ability, and after that happened, and he did that because Zaraki was on the back foot. He was all fucked up, bloody, and he couldn't do stuff, so he had to step in there to do that. Then he sees Uryu, and Uryu's actually with the enemy now because he's a Quincy. He's like, I'm a Quincy. I have to side with the Quincy's. You're not a Quincy. You're a Soul Reaper. You're nothing. You're ugly. We're not friends no more. And he's like, get the fuck out of here, man. We ain't, he's like, I ain't with your shit no more, Ichigo. And Ichigo's like, that's bullshit. I know you're, like, lying to your ass and other things, man. You're still my friend. You're playing games. And they left and other things, and then Ichigo is just, now, and this is season 3. He tries to get to the Soul Palace before Yua absorbs, the Soul King, but he's too late. The Soul King's being absorbed and other stuff. Ichigo's like too slow to get there, and actually, Ichigo cracked the Soul King himself. So, like, Yuha was able to make Ichigo cut down the Soul King with his ability. So then it was easier for him to take control of the Soul King's power. But luckily for him, there was still a piece of the Soul King that was still inside of Uketake, Mimihagi, the right hand of the Soul King, I think. Yeah, I think it was the right hand of the Soul King. And then all of that shit happened, and everything went, wrong. And it still is, Ichigo, he's going to fight, Uryu. He's trying to get to Yuha, to fight him and shit. And he has, all kind of people on his side. Hollows, Grimjow's there now. Rukia and everybody else who's still alive. And that's how season 3 is right now. It's over now, but core 4 will be great. But I know what happens at the end. I could spoil it for you, but basically it is like a happy ending for Ichigo. But that's the story of Ichigo Kurosaki. It's great. I didn't know that this video was going to be this long, but now I know how long these videos are going to be, and I actually like that I'm going to make these videos, but only about the main characters for right now. But yeah, so that's the story of Ichigo Kurosaki, long and all that other stuff. But I'll make some more of these videos too. But stay cool, corn on the corner, all right?